A suicide bomber in Pakistan kills 59 people in a mosque, while the US and Germany sent battle tanks to Ukraine. The 299 news starts now. Welcome to the 299 news. I'm Matt.
I'm Maiden.
And I'm Cole. Boys, I have breaking news. There was an explosion at a mosque in Pakistan that has killed at least 50 people. And I've been told that Matt has plenty of news about the story, so I'm going to pass it down over to Matt.
All right. I don't have plenty of news, but I have enough to form the basics of it. So, the news website I got it off of was Fox 43. It is a unbiased website, so it's not the regular. The title is "Suicide Bomber Kills 59 People, Wounds Over 150 at Pakistan Mosque." I'll just read off some of the quotes and snippets from the article. A suicide bomber struck a crowded mosque inside a police compound in Pakistan on Monday, causing the roof to collapse and killing at least 59 people and wounding more than 150 others. More specific, most of the casualties were police officers in Peshawar, Pakistan. Here's a quote from the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shahbaz Sharif. The sheer scale of the human tragedy is unbelievable. This is no less than an attack on Pakistan. In addition, the TTP has waged an insurgency in Pakistan in the past 15 years, seeking stricter enforcement of Islamic law, the release of its members in government custody, and a reduction in the Pakistani military presence in areas of Khyber, I can't pronounce that, province. It has long used which has been long used as a military base. Can't think of anything else to say that. Wait, if we receive any new news from this concerning this, any terrorist acts in Pakistan, then we'll keep you guys posted. Cole, want to move on to our next article? News topic?
I would happily do so. Alright, so earlier, within the last week, Germany announced that they're going to be sending Leopard battle tanks to Ukraine for an assistance. Germany's been refusing to do so, but their defense minister left their position earlier in the week. And the new one has announced that they were sending tanks to Ukraine. And the U.S. responded by saying that they were going to send some Abram battle tanks to Ukraine. This is a huge step in the escalation of the war, especially after last episode where we talked about former President Dmitry Medvedev threatening nuclear war if they lost, due to the fact that they would be losing to NATO and not Ukraine, as Russia is interpreting this as a war against NATO rather than just a war against Ukraine now. And Donald J. Trump decided he wanted to respond to this. Now, I have, you guys can put the quotation marks if you want, since this is a quotation by him. Yeah, I retweeted it. So you just have to scroll down a little bit. He said on his Truth Social app, I think that's what it is. I don't know. The app the only social media he's allowed on. He said, quote unquote, "First comes the tanks, then comes the nukes. Get this crazy war ended now. So easy to do." So,
is he a poet or something? Is that what he's doing after he lost the election?
He's moved on to poetry. But he's
writing sad songs about how he's the
new Turns out "Bye Bye" by Juice WRLD was actually written by Donald Trump.
Oh, we're gonna get a lot of hate comments after that. But all right.
So Donald J. Trump is now Edgar Allan Poe. Breaking news.
Yep. Yep.
So, Aiden, what do you think about the U.S. sending tanks to Ukraine and the escalation of this war?
No comment.
All right, well, Aiden, if you have no comment, we'll push it over to Matt. Matt, do you have any comments about this? About the escalation of the war?
It shows another. It's another example of NATO's support for Ukraine, which it also digs a deeper hole of the Russian sentiment that it's a fight against NATO. But it's not. That doesn't necessarily mean that I disagree that they should be reinforcing Ukraine. I think that they should help Ukraine in any way they can, whether Russia, or stomps their feet or has a hissy fit about it. But it's the right thing to do.
Well, now that we know Matt wants to go have a nuclear war.
It's not. No. We talked about that last. I do not. I am. That's of course of not.
If you want to know about our views on nuclear war, go back to the last podcast.
But let's say if NATO backs down.
That's my favorite word.
If NATO backs down because of Russia threatening nuclear war, then that shows NATO's weakness, and that defeats the purpose of cohesion with other countries. Like if they just back down because a country threatens them, then that shows like a huge weakness on their side. Weakness.
I agree with you.
But it's a hard decision because they also worry what if they mean it.
I haven't said it yet, but Norway also announced that they're sending battle tanks, and Germany also said they're sending fighter jets to Ukraine too. And the U.S. has stated that they're not going to send any fighter jets. This is coming from Biden himself, that he said they were not sending any fighter jets. So,
it's probably a good idea because maybe wait, let me think about that.
We didn't really put this in the headlines, but Finland has announced that they are separating from Sweden when it comes to joining NATO. They're going to try and join by themselves rather than them and Sweden together. Because Turkey, the reason that they're not in is because Turkey is not happy with Sweden right now. So they're going to try and take advantage, and they're going to try and defend themselves rather than working with Sweden, it looks like, instead. So. And Turkey might invade Syria. But we won't talk about that. That's too much.
Anything about so Russia's losing the war, obviously.
Really?
What? But how about when it comes to the Air Force? Because when I said how the U.S. not sending any fighters
air
to
superiority.
Ukraine, yeah, air superiority. Yeah.
I can look it up real quick.
I believe if let's say if NATO supports Ukraine or provides them fighters to gain air superiority, then that'll increase tensions with Russia dramatically, or maybe not dramatically, but
Ukraine has air superiority as of March. That was a March 2022.
Okay.
Yeah, nope.
All right.
2023. Here we go. So, I don't know if anybody has air superiority. I haven't looked too far into it. I'd imagine Ukraine is their own, and that it's at least even. Because if Russia had air superiority, then they would probably be winning. Let's be honest. So, because air superiority is really huge when it comes to wars.
Yeah. You learned that
from... taught me anything.
Yeah. Except I'm shit. You're gonna have to teach me how to use air superiority or air support effectively.
Buddy, I don't know what I'm doing. Buddy, have you watched my Hoi 4 series on my YouTube channel yet?
No, I have to do that.
I haven't even touched my planes yet because I have no idea what I'm doing. I've said it 100 times on the channel. I have no idea what I'm doing.
I think the basics, what I know is that you got to create like air wings, and then you put it in like air bases, and you put it like it's.
Hey, I'm playing, buddy. I'd rather just go to war with tiny nations and kill them. I don't need.
I was thinking about going back into Hearts of Iron. We should, Cole. We should play together, and then Aiden joins in once he finally figures out to goddamn play video games with us, but he doesn't because he thinks he's too cool.
I am too cool.
Yeah.
You know what? I hope you stub your toe a third time. I hope you stub it a third time.
What?
I hope your sock has a hole in it.
It does. How did you know?
Socks have so many holes in them.
Right,
look like a homeless person.
Okay. Air superiority. Ukraine. Does Ukraine have air superiority? Because they're sending the fighter jets. Alright. Where do I take this?
Well, it says that Russia does not have air superiority because it lacks experience and training, and it's not
fair enough because
easily replaceable.
Earlier last year, they got rid of the training camps and boot camps completely, and just said they're gonna conscript people and then just put them immediately on the battlefield.
Yep.
Oh, which is a great idea. So, good job, Russia.
Especially when they have no morale. Yeah. Well, they have no morale.
Actually, want to fight for them.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, so remember how I think this is the one episode we didn't post. It was on Victor Boots. Do either of you guys remember that name?
I don't know.
He was the one with Brittany Griner, right?
It was traded for,
yeah. I don't think we actually covered that, but
well, we did, and then we never posted it.
We never put it in episode 5. We posted episode 5, just never made the final cut. But we did talk about it though.
Basically, he said after he was traded and he was returning, he was gonna go fight on the battlefield in Ukraine, and he was gonna go serve his land or whatever. Yeah, it turns out that trade happened months ago, right? I don't even remember when. Let me see. When did that even happen? Number 5, you said, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. That happened in December, right? And Victor Boots is still not shown up on the battlefield yet. He's been actually dodging it. So, what a Chad. Almost as big of a Chad as Sam Fried Bankman, or Bankman Fried, who was house arrested and has to go live with his mom now. Hi, Sam. Hope you're doing well. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Any final thoughts on this whole concept of the Russia versus NATO battle, Matt? Or or NATO in general, Finland, Sweden, Turkey. Russians.
I think we talked. I think we explained it a lot in our last video. So, if our audience wants to go check out our discussion on that or last.
Actually, let's talk about. Do you know anything about the Turkey-Sweden issue?
No, I do not. But if you do, I
can explain it quickly. So, because we never talked about that in the last. So, as you guys might know, that Sweden and Finland have tried to join NATO now for months. Every country in the NATO alliance has accepted this, except 2. Turkey and Hungary. And Hungary announced that they want to be the last country to accept this. Which means Turkey's really the last one to have to accept this. And Turkey has not. Now, Turkey's been having a bunch of, internal issues with President Erdogan, which many consider to be a tyrant who has basically, how do I explain this? He's consolidated power for himself instead of, so he doesn't really like Sweden because Sweden is a very free speech country, and there was I can't remember what they were doing, but there was some Swedish people they did something anti-Muslim, and Turkey has not forgiven them since for it. They don't want them in NATO because of that. Something similar to that storyline. If the viewers want to look more into it, I probably am wrong, so they can put it in the comments nicely, saying that I was wrong. Nicely. Turkey's basically now got a bunch of internal issues, as there's thoughts that they're going to declare that they're going to invade Syria again. There was a huge explosion that killed a bunch of people in Turkey a couple weeks ago that has been blamed on the Kurdish people, which is one of the major groups fighting in like the endless Syrian civil war. The endless Syrian civil war. So yeah.
Can we just move on to sports and tech news and all that and get that over with?
Yes.
All right.
Sports news.
Wait.
Rewind.
Wait. I want to talk about something. All right. So I have an additional website I want to talk about, or additional topic. It's from the South China Morning Post. It is entirely in quotes, so everything I will say is from them. So do not do not say I'm plagiarizing, because I'm not. U.S.
plagiarizing?
Cool, I swear to God. U.S. House panel to vote next month on a possible nationwide ban of popular short video app TikTok. The United States House Foreign Affairs Committee plans to hold a vote next month on a bill aimed at blocking the use of China's popular social media app TikTok in the U.S. The concern is that this app gives the Chinese government a backdoor into our phones, McCall told Bloomberg News. McCall's comments are the most concrete sign that the U.S. Congress should enact a ban this year. The Texas Republican said he is skeptical that any proposed firewall between the enormously popular short video platform and its Chinese parent would adequately protect U.S. users. So that's kind of the overview of what happened currently. This was 3 days ago, Friday. I'm going to include some past actions that have been made on it. In 2020, then President Donald Trump attempted to block new users from downloading TikTok. That did not, from my memory, go as intended. Nothing happened.
Nothing really happened.
In June 2022, the Biden administration formally abandoned that effort. Then in December, Republican Senator Marco Rubio unveiled bipartisan legislation to ban TikTok.
Oh, that was in 2021. Just a slight correction.
Yes. Did I say 2022?
No, it says 20.
You said 2020.
No.
Yeah, so in 2021, that's when that unveiled bipartisan legislation banned the app.
But over the course
long ago.
But over the course of 2022 and early into this year, 2023, a lot of states have been banning TikTok off their phones. I know that
government phones, I think.
A government issued, federally owned phones too. I think federal devices are also a part of this as well. But
I thought that was it. It's just federal phones.
Yeah, federal phones and state issued phones. I know that that like South Carolina and a few other states. I think Maine was another one of those states that decided to ban TikTok off their government issued devices. So, but
are you guys? Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah. So I don't know what's gonna happen with TikTok over the next couple of years, but I'm guessing. And this is just a theory of mine. I think it's going to go down the same way Napster did. That was something that happened around the late 90s and the early 2000s. So in 1999, they launched Napster. It was a peer-to-peer music sharing service. It was basically Spotify before Spotify. But all the music was illegally obtained. People were buying the CDs, ripping them, and putting the tracks on the internet for anyone to download for free. Which the record companies weren't too happy about, so they all went to court and everything. Metallica and Dr. Dre were all pretty worked up about that. But it wasn't until 2001 when Napster shut down because of the government basically pulling a cease and desist on the distribution of any copyright material. And by that, I mean like 100% of the material that was copyrighted. They had a system in place that could get rid of like 95% of it. It didn't really work out too great. They couldn't really get all of it off, so they gave up in July of that year, shut down. Napster did come back, for those of you wondering. It is a music streaming service now, but it's $12.99 a month. It's basically just another competitor to Spotify. But I think TikTok will go down the same way. Though this is a little different because on one hand, Napster is about copyright. With TikTok, it's about national security, you know? So I think we're going to probably see that playing a pretty big role. There have been people that have said they want to have TikTok sold to another company here in the States. I'm not sure if you've heard that one. A lot of people are kind of debating over that one, over whether or not that's really considered free trade. But either way, it doesn't look too good for TikTok. There have been some proposals to ban the app entirely here in the United States. None of those have passed so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did manage to pass it some point, like later this year or next year. And to tell you the truth, I think that might be the only viable solution, because I don't know if Oracle or Microsoft, they've expressed interest in purchasing TikTok. I just don't think ByteDance would be too happy about it. But for those of you wondering, ByteDance owns TikTok. So I don't know if that's exactly the best option, or if it's even really a possibility, to tell you the truth. But just my 2 cents. I guess while we're on the news, on the note of tech news, should I get into some other news going on right now?
Sports news?
Tech news. Let's go into tech news since we were talking about something like that.
Okay. So I'm only going to talk about a couple other things real quick. But I think the big thing we got to talk about is coming up in a couple of days. Samsung's releasing the S23 series of phones. And that's going to be happening this Wednesday in San Francisco. Now, they're going to keep the prices the same as this past year's S22 phones. But the $1,000 S23 Plus and the $1,200 S23 Ultra will start with 256 gigs of UFS 4 storage, while the vanilla S23 will start at $799 with 128 gigs of UFS 3.1 storage. All variants of those phones will have Snapdragon processors, as opposed to certain countries getting the Exynos processors, and our other countries like the US and other North American countries getting the more superior Snapdragon processors. So that shall be interesting to see. And have you guys heard of the Nothing phone? I don't think you have. It's mainly in Europe and Asia, but they're looking at releasing the Nothing Phone 2 later this year, and that will be here in the United States and probably Europe and Asia.
It's insane.
Yeah. It was kind of a cool phone. It was a lot more affordable than some of the other flagship phones. I think it was like, I don't remember what price it was, but it was pretty low. It was like $400 or something like that. But it had like the back. You could look it up, but the back of the phone had like lighting, had like LED lighting. I don't think it was RGB, but it looked pretty cool though. But they're looking at releasing a Nothing Phone 2 here in the States. And they've even said that their earbud sales, they've noticed a third of those have come from the US. So they think that launching the Nothing Phone 2 here in the US would be a good move financially, since they're already getting a lot of buzz here, and they're also getting their earbuds imported here into the United States. So that's pretty much it for tech news I can come up with right now. But we'll definitely keep you posted in the coming weeks. So, do we want to get to sports news?
Welcome. The most important week in the NFL. Now, let me indulge you in some great football. As this week, upcoming week, we have the NFL Super Bowl.
Wow.
I actually don't know what number is it. I don't know which Super Bowl we're on. I think it's 57.
I was gonna say, I think
57.
it's 57. Super Bowl 57.
Sure, that's exactly what you're gonna say.
Yep. And they're gonna be playing
All right, so
in
this Sunday.
Glendale, Arizona, at the State Farm Stadium. So.
Is the Arizona team playing in the Super Bowl though?
No, but they're playing in Arizona.
And nobody's gonna go there. All right.
Nobody.
So for the Super Bowl. So this weekend we had the NFL for the NFC Championship. It was the Eagles versus the 49ers. Where the Eagles, Jalen Hurts threw for only 121 yards with no touchdowns, as all of their touchdowns came from running the ball, with 2 to Miles Sanders, 1 by Boston Scott and Jalen Hurts, in a 31-7 win, as quarterback Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers takes his first ever loss in his career. The last overall pick in this draft was injured twice during the game. First time he injured his hand and sat out, but then they brought in the backup as the only quarterback left on the roster. As if you remember in the beginning of the season, Brock Purdy was the 3rd string quarterback, the backup to the backup. They brought in the 4th backup, Josh Johnson, who ended up getting hurt on the field too. So with no quarterbacks left, they put Brock Purdy back out there, where sadly he tore his UCL and is going to be out for at least 6 months. The 49ers lost 31-7. And in the AFC Championship game, it was a back and forth between the Chiefs and the Bengals, where Patrick Mahomes threw for 326 yards and 2 touchdowns against Joe Burrow for the Bengals threw 270 yards and a touchdown, but with 2 interceptions, as the Chiefs win 23-20, meaning we're going to have Chiefs versus Eagles in the championship, or the Super Bowl, on Monday, February 8th. February 8th, I think. February 12th. February 12th. Tune in to Fox at 6:30 on February 12th to watch the Super Bowl. Sports news over. Time for our epic chapter names.
Let's go. Let's do this. So, Napoleon was born into a low/middle-class family in Corsica when France was occupied. When France occupied the territory in the 18th century, or the island. His family sent him to study at a military school in Paris, which kickstarted his military career. During his schooling, he frequently read books about great generals of the past, including Julius Caesar, which inspired him to gain the prominence that many of these historical figures gained through their endeavors. After graduating from the military when he was 16, he was placed as a 2nd lieutenant in an artillery regiment. However, this didn't satisfy Napoleon's ambition and only prompted him to rise to the ranks. Before the revolution, Napoleon's ambitions as a military officer were stunted due to France's social and political system, the Yachine regime. This goes back to our last week's discussion about the French Revolution and how that social and political system really affected a lot of people, and how it affected Napoleon, which I will go into shortly. This system was organized into a social hierarchy comprising the first estate, which was the clergy, the second estate, which was the nobility, and the third estate, which included the bourgeoisie and peasants, pretty much everyone else. Many high positions within the French government, including the military, were given to members of the privileged class. This is an aspect of the Yachine regime where anyone of royal standing were given a lot of the high position or high positions. Um, when therefore, Napoleon was rejected to being because he was a resident of the middle class. When the revolution erupted, Napoleon utilized it as an instrument to drive up his military career. He fought to defend the revolution against anti-revolutionists and royalists, which prompted his success, eventually landing himself in the command of his own army. Before I go on to the first three coalitions, I want to talk about how Napoleon's leadership was really significant, how he made himself such a successful leader. There were many reasons why Napoleon was such a victorious general. One of them was that he commanded a strong loyalty amongst his army. Another reason is that he utilized deception and surprise, as well as quick maneuvering to overwhelm his enemies. He divided his army into corps, which served as smaller units consisting of infantry, cavalry, and artillery. Each corps acted independently while looting rural areas for resources, essentially living off the land, which allowed his armies to move extremely quickly and easily outmaneuver other armies. Napoleon also utilized his artillery to its full potential, allowing him an advantage in many confrontations. So following the revolution in France, a wave of enlightenment throughout Europe caused many of the monarchies of European monarchies to detest this new French Republic and wanted to restore the old monarchy. They worried about revolt from peasants or anti-royalists and caused by the spread of Enlightenment. Austria, Prussia, Great Britain, Spain, as well as Sardinia united under the first coalition against France from 1792 to 1797. This was the start of the War of the First Coalition. At this time, Napoleon was not yet the leader of France, but he was given military campaigns in northern Italy against Austria from 1796 to 1797. This, and to add more context to that, Napoleon was given not the most important campaign of the War of the First Coalition. He kind of made it the big battle or the big campaign. And this won him a lot of renown and kind of kickstarted or pushed him to up the ranks or greater military career. He was later given operations in Italy in 1798, so to disrupt British trade routes to India, but was later pulled out after issues occurring in France. As Napoleon was distracted in Egypt following the end of the War of the First Coalition, France decided to spread its revolutionary ideals to other smaller states. This angered the monarchies of Europe, who felt threatened by this spread of revolutionary ideologies or wave of enlightenment, which kickstarted the Second War against France so they could topple the Republic and possibly return the monarchy. Basically the same objectives as was the First War. In 1799, Austria, Great Britain, Naples, and Russia united, kickstarting the War of the Second Coalition. This lasted from 1799 to 1802. At that point, Napoleon was the dictator of France, following the coup of the former unpopular government at the Château du Saint-Cloud Palace in 1799. And side note, Napoleon and his army trapped officials of the unpopular government in the palace and forced them to concede to a new constitution. In 1802, France was able to isolate Austria and and forced the other nations to concede, resulting in another French victory. Eventually, France and Great Britain were agreed upon a peace treaty, ending the War of the Second Coalition.
Treaty of Lunesville, is that what you're referring to?
Yep,
Or
exactly.
The Treaty of Luneville?
And 1 year later, in 1803, tensions would arise again after both France and Great Britain were violating the articles of the treaty. What was it called, Cole?
Treaty of Luneville.
After they were violating the articles of the Treaty of Luneville.
Or do you want me to spell it for you so you can type it or something?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
It was signed in 1801.
So that article was signed in 1801.
Do you want me to talk about what it came out of that, or do you have that? What the results of that treaty were?
You go ahead if you want to start talking about it.
And Austria was forced to give up much of their Italian territory to France. France and Britain ended up staying in a rivalry because Napoleon. You never mentioned it, but Napoleon actually installed. I can't remember if it was his brother or a cousin as the king of Spain. So Spain ended up sending a naval fleet to also take out Britain, but they also defeated Spanish ships. They defeated French navy, so France and Britain never gained anything out of one another during the war because it was a standstill at the British Channel. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually get more into that relationship between France and that kind of that dynamic and how Britain influenced the war. Adding more clarification to this, or context to the tension that was growing, France was starting to orchestrate an invasion of Britain, funded by the wealth gained after the Louisiana Purchase in the United States. Napoleon sold that land to the U.S., but his invasion was stalled after realizing the challenge of crossing the English Channel. So at that time, Great Britain boasted the largest navy in the world, while France only dominated on land. So logically, even though Napoleon had the largest and most superior army, they could not engage Great Britain on land. The only way to do that would have to cross the English Channel. But Great Britain, like I said, had the largest navy. So it was pretty much impossible for Napoleon to directly engage with Great Britain. And France did ally with Spain. They merged their navies to possibly defeat the British Navy, but that ended in failure. So this dynamic would prevent both powers from engaging each other directly, but instead Britain could utilize its wealth to persuade nations into fighting France, sort of like a proxy war. So after defeating both Austria and Russia in 1805, both countries conceded defeat, but the war wouldn't officially end until Napoleon's conquest of Naples in 1806. The war would be another French or Napoleon victory, but it would come at a greater expense for Austria in particular. They were forced to pay significant financial and territorial compensations, and agreed to never engage in another war with France. However, other European powers remained hostile to Napoleon, but they never really engaged him, which gave Napoleon the opportunity to strengthen his hold over Europe. He allocated occupied territory to allied friends and family, as well as established a Germanic protectorate or puppet state called the Confederation of the Rhine in 1806. So, to add more context to that, the establishment of that puppet state, the Confederation of the Rhine, and the overall defeat of the Austrians crippled Emperor Francis. Sorry, the Emperor of Austria. It crippled his influence or faded away in Germany, which forced him to officially dissolve the Holy Roman Empire, which at this point was inevitable. Its demise was inevitable. It was pretty weakened at that point.
I forgot it still existed at that time.
I know. And also another side note I think to consider is that Britain would dominate the sea for the remainder of the conflict, so that created this dynamic of where Britain, since they had large amounts of money, they were able to fund the allied nations of the coalition to help them fight the war against Napoleon. So that kind of created the dynamic. And so France and Great Britain never engaged each other directly. It's kind of similar to a proxy war. So Cole, do you want to add anything on to the Third Coalition?
Yes. One thing I want to add is the Battle of Trafalgar. It's considered to be was considered to be Napoleon's big attempt at invading and taking over Britain, which at this point, like you said, it had the largest navy. France sent the largest invasion of the combination of French and Spanish fleets to try and take it over. It was the largest invasion of Britain since the Spanish Armada, I believe. And Napoleon lost all of the ships and everything. And it was at that point, it was considered that Britain would not be able to be invaded or taken over by anybody. They'd become almost an impenetrable force, invincible at that time. Except to the Irish, but we don't talk about them. But, so... yeah, that's all I want to add, I think.
Do you want to continue our discussion on the Napoleonic Wars to the Fourth Coalition? Get like a summary of that.
I think maybe Aiden, do you want me to cut it here? Okay, fair enough. All right, so we can do the Fourth Coalition, and then the next one, and then we can do Napoleon exiled. He comes back, and then he tries the 100 Days Napoleon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Gives you more time to research the ending, I guess. So I think it's fair enough that we leave it there. So
Sounds good.
Who wants to do the outro?
That'll be it for today's video, or today's discussion. Thank you for watching, and next week we will be back with the second part of the Napoleonic Wars. Again, thank you for listening, and we hope we hope you listen to our next podcast next week. Thanks for watching.